Okay, well, welcome to Adult Buddy Finder.
Yes, you have got Greenberry Lucas
And Kirsten Porter.
and you have got the Adult Buddy Finder show, and Melanie Laforce is our guest. She is in an open marriage.
Yes, she is. And not only that, she is also a comedian, a writer, and social psychologist.
That woman is a lot of things, but the main thing today, we're going to be learning about this open marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which I'm excited about and anxious about.
Yeah.
Because I have a hard time with the open relationships.
Really?
Yeah, growing up, I was taught that cheating was like the worst thing. Cheating
It's hurtful.
That's the bottom of the barrel. That's very bad.
Very bad.
An open relationship growing up was kind of like next to that, where it was almost like, well, one person is okay with it and one person is not, but they don't say.
Yeah.
And so you're really,
someone's gotten tricked into it somehow.
Yeah.
Someone's gotten. And why is that different than polyamory? Because we did talk to Lauren, who is new to polyamory.
Well, I realized afterwards, I was like, yeah, I have a hard time talking about it and being a little bit more open to polyamory than I initially thought.
Yes.
I do honestly believe that it works for some people, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around it and how it works, because for me growing up, it did not. That way I was taught it doesn't work.
Well,
end of story.
Here's the facts. I too.
Such dramatic moment.
I know. But I like, if we're gonna be honest, which I think we should be. I mean, obviously we're here to lock those judgments away. We're here to not be judgmental, but we have judgments. We have predisposition thoughts. We have ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And I certainly, like, personally don't feel comfortable with it. And I know too, like, the stereotype about it is like, if you're in an open marriage, like, you're on your way out of that relationship. You're like trying to save the marriage.
It's like having a baby.
In your mind, in what you're saying is like, it's like what some couples do is like
that last try, that last thing, that maybe this
is the thing.
This was what's gonna bring us together.
Like, we're a broken couple and we are doing everything we can to like make this messed up mess work.
Yeah.
I think that that probably does happen. But
where it breaks up. Yeah, I've heard of marriages where they brought it to, I mean, where they brought it to the spouse being like, let's try an open relationship, and that it destroys it really is already over to begin with. But
back to the cheating, it's kind of like, it's like, oh yeah, let's it's like a trap. It's like a trap.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, I want to have a threesome. I mean, I want to have an open marriage. I want to open us up.
I want other people.
Yeah. And it's like, just kind of like, just so that they say, what? I only want you, babe.
Yeah.
And then when the person's like, oh, okay, yeah,
cool.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, you want someone else. I
got you.
I caught you. But I definitely understand that way of thinking. And I know, like, personally, I know I'm not comfortable with it. I'm a very jealous person. I can't imagine like being okay with it. But today's guest, she's not you. She's not me, and she's not you, and she's not, and she's been in a marriage for over 20 years.
Yeah, so something's working.
So and statistically, marriages fail. I know that's like a depressosaurus thing, but statistically, 50% of marriages end in divorce. So that's monogamous marriages that we think of when we think of that statistic.
Well, is that because that could also be.
I'm gonna say it's a monogamous marriage. 50% of the time end in divorce. I don't think we have the data on like what the intricacies of the relationship is.
Somebody check that or do a study on that.
Don't search it. Just trust me. I am your trusty host, and I'm telling you that 50% of monogamous marriages end in divorce. Okay? I don't know if it's real, but just for the sake of this, Just
Oh my
imagine.
God, please trust her. I think Mary might have an aneurysm or something.
Please believe me. I don't want to do Google. I don't want to know. I just want to spew facts.
Okay.
I just want to spew data as facts. Here's the reality, okay? Here's my 100% data scientist, non-degreed
From your mind.
From my mind, literally, we're talking about spreading hot goss. Here's a hot goss I'm spreading is that 50% of monogamous marriages end in divorce, okay? So
how are you doing in there?
Fine. So now we know one marriage for sure that is not divorced and they're open.
And not monogamous. It's
I think the main purpose of whether or not my fucking statistics are correct about monogamous marriage or not monogamous marriage or how many is that people do get divorced. No matter what you're doing in your marriage, it can fail. And what we've learned a lot of it is like, are you talking to each other? Have you told each other how you feel? Are you watching porn together? No, you don't have to watch porn together.
How do you meet your needs too?
And how do you meet your needs?
Yeah, and it may not be in your relationship, and I don't mean sexually, although it could mean sexually.
Yeah,
but doesn't have to.
You gotta have friends.
Gotta have friends.
Social life is important.
You gotta be able to have a life outside of just your partner, because that's a lot to put on one person.
Yeah, but you don't have to have a sex life outside of your partner. But Melanie Laforce does.
Yeah.
She has a sex life outside of her partner, and he can too. Whether he does or not, we'll find out.
Up to him.
Want to talk to Melanie?
I would love to. Let's jump in.
No more hearsay. Let's hear from Melanie herself. And listeners, you're in for a treat. This is Melanie Laforce. She is a comedian, an improviser, which is also a comedian, but you do stand-up, you do improv. Yes. And you're a writer, and I love your writing. You're a very good writer.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty much a writer first, I feel like, and I'm trying to add some fun performance stuff back in my life too. So
nice. Well, writing goes into stand-up, but no writing allowed in improv.
I know.
Except for Groundlings, you kind of do character work. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're going to talk about your sex life. Melanie is in an open marriage, and we want to know about this open marriage stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. How did you?
So I don't know what your typical listeners are, like what generation they are. I'm an old. Actually, no, that's not true. I'm a young Gen X. So I feel like, for kids who are Gen Z now, open marriages and polyamory are fairly normal. But that wasn't my experience when my husband and I first decided to have an open marriage.
Yeah.
It was still sort of like we were swingers. Like that was what you were if you had an open marriage back then. But yeah, so it's been really interesting to see how our relationship has evolved over time and how the culture has evolved over time. Because it's definitely, been real. So
is there a difference in swinging and being in an open marriage, or is it just terminology?
It's a little bit like to each their own how they want to define it. I think of swingers typically as people who like to have sex together, and so we definitely did experiment with that. Like that's what we did first, and it quickly became not our thing, like I have social anxiety, so trying to impress 3 people in bed was like way more stressful than
I don't have social anxiety, but that sounds
it makes me nervous scary. For sure.
It's like I've only got so many fingers, and we were friends with some of the couples that we used to hang out with, and it got kind of weird. Like we'd start to see like the weird idiosyncrasies into their relationship, and we were like, no, we don't want to be a part of this. Like we went out with this couple for a while that they would use like they would passively aggressively use their cats to fight each other. One would hold up a cat and the other would hold up a cat, and they would be like, well, maybe if he emptied the trash once in a while. And so it quickly became like, we don't need this level of intimacy with another person. So we started kind of just doing it independently. Like we were never really into the group thing.
Independent contractors.
Yeah. I feel like like having sex with other people with your partner is kind of a gateway for a lot of people. And it really helps you understand your comfort. And I'm glad we did it that way, even if that ended up not being like what we were sexually into.
Yeah.
It was a good way to like have a shared experience and understand what emotions we might have been feeling for the first time in doing that. Because we were married for about 4 years maybe before we started opening up our marriage.
And when you say open marriage, are you talking about sex, love, hate, all of the whole thing with
Yeah,
other people?
definitely. I would say all of the above. I think when we first started out, again, like we were pretty uneducated about polyamory. There wasn't as much literature or media about it. And so we were kind of figuring it out on our own, which was hard. We didn't know how to deal with some of the new emotions. And for me, like I really liked the attention and the intimacy and the romance with other guys. Like I basically just want every moment in my life to be a meet cute. That was really like, since I was a kid, that kind of, dopamine rush had always been what really attracted me most. So I was more interested in like the romance and even the sex, with the novelty of that experience. But I mean, it definitely started out where we had sex as the proximal thing. Like it was the first thing, that we kind of thought of when we had an open relationship. And I think we started to realize more how we felt about that and what we wanted individually.
And going into the sex part, was that how did you even come to being like, oh, let's start having sex with other people? Was it like maybe you weren't super happy in the bedroom, or you wanted to do stuff that he didn't want to do, or other way around, or you actually wanted more relationship, but you were like, the only thing to do nowadays is swing and nothing else is an option? How
Yeah.
did that
I mean,
start?
I was definitely the facilitator of it. And in a lot of open relationships at that time, at least, we knew a lot more men who were trying to figure it out with their, wife partners.
Uh-huh.
And I have always been boy crazy. My first memory is from like preschool when one of the little boys asked me to like go sit under a table with him and pretend that we were going to see Santa Claus. And I was like so excited. I remember, getting in trouble in kindergarten for putting my head on a boy's lap. The teacher would say, "Melanie, this is not nap time." So,
You're
so
like,
I
I
think
know, girl.
I've always had a big appetite for boys. I've always had a lot of crushes. Very like Tina Belcher style teenage life, and I got married really young. Dave was really like the first person who truly, I think, loved me. And we met in college. And, we grew up in pretty sheltered, white, Midwest, middle class areas. And, that was all we knew was monogamy. Your relationship was like Rachel and Ross, on Friends. So, and at that point too, I was starting to realize that I had interest in women. So that was kind of where we first started. Was like, let's think about maybe bringing a woman into this. And then, once we ended up kind of instead meeting a couple and having a foursome, a really really drunk foursome in a
So that was the
hotel
first
room.
experience, a drunken foursome. Now you were married and you were kind of like, okay, I have these feelings and I'm kind of thinking about girls and hey, I'm kind of wanting to do this thing. And he's like, cool, let's try it out.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, at first, I think it started like we were just drunk, and actually on your namesake website, Adult Friend Finder, um, which is like if you try to look at porn at all, like in the mid 2000s, it would take you to Adult Friend Finder eventually. Like
Oh,
it would eventually, like you would be on that website, and we were like, oh, let's just sign up and see.
okay.
And then we met online a really beautiful couple from Seattle who were going to be in town. We're like, that's perfect. No commitment,
Yeah, out of towners.
Oh, hell
yeah.
yeah.
And
Good looking.
they
Check,
were
check.
really good looking, cool people, self-identified swingers. I still maintain that they're the only like really awesome people I've met who like fully embrace like the swinger mentality and lifestyle, like
Oh,
the sort of
cool.
mid-century, lovers in the hot tub vibe.
Oh.
Um,
Love us. They want to go love us.
yeah, and I mean, it really helped that they were attractive for sure too, and both of them were
Yeah.
attractive because that can be hard to find in foursomes.
So you had definite beginner's luck, sounds like.
We did, yeah, we
Yeah.
did, and afterwards we were just like, oh my god, we're rock stars. No one does this, because at the time that was just so taboo in our
Yeah.
families and our social circles, and
How
so it was very exciting.
how did that go? Like, did they, because they've done foursomes before, so did they like kind of talk you through it and help you out, or were you guys just kind of like, I don't know, I'm gonna touch your boob?
They definitely did talk us through it. There was, I think nowadays there would be even more clarity and consent around it. It's just a norm. But even then, back then, I think we were all very much on the same page. They had actually never done what they called a full swap before, which is when,
That was my
like,
thought. I was wondering.
yeah, and that's a word that's really for
Wait. What is full? Oh,
full
sorry.
swap.
Yeah, what is
It means, at least it did then, that it, and this is in a heterosexual coupling. The man from one couple would have sex with the woman from the other couple, and the woman from one couple would have sex with the man from the other couple.
Okay,
Oh.
okay.
But certainly, like if you had two, queer people, it would look like whatever the couples were and how they meshed up together.
But then did the guys get together and the girls get together as well?
The girls did actually, but the
Okay.
guys did not.
Okay.
Which is, I think, again, that was pretty common at the time. I think, at this point, there's a lot more men that I meet that are openly like willing to experiment with other men, even if they really identify as straight. But I think even like 15 years ago, that wasn't the norm yet.
Mhm.
And it wasn't something that my husband ever expressed interest in anyway, so it was fine.
Okay.
I would have liked to have seen it personally, but
So the first time, no guy on guy. Did it ever become like everyone? I guess is that like more of an orgy?
that would, I guess, I mean, like, I've used the word orgy to describe the foursomes too,
Yeah.
because, like, I think as long as you've got multiple sex happening, it's an
Yeah.
orgy.
Yeah, how many people
You
does it
know,
take to make an orgy?
uh,
Yeah.
but that never did happen with us. Like, we had several, like, foursome kind of situations. And then I gradually started, kind of branching off. It was a lot easier, and probably still is, for me to meet guys versus my husband to meet women who were into this situation,
Okay.
especially at that time.
Mhm.
And he honestly, like, he didn't take advantage of it a lot because he just didn't want to do the work. Like,
Yeah.
he was like, oh, like, I love flirting, I love like building tension, and he doesn't want to bother with that. So like it
Yeah.
was, he would find it, if it fell into his lap, he would be like, okay, cool,
Uh-huh.
but
Just
otherwise,
a
yeah.
pause. As far as like our listeners go, it seems like the people that message us anyway, it's very much like a can it just fall into my lap thing?
So can it?
I mean, I think if you are less agoraphobic than I am, it probably does.
Yeah.
I'm a lot less polyamorous now. Really, like, we're almost monogamous again, just because since COVID, we kind of
Right.
obviously got out of the habit of it, and then we moved to LA, and so I haven't, really met anybody. I haven't really tried to meet anybody since living in LA because of COVID happening. But I think for some people who are very social and they're meeting with a lot of different groups, it's possible that someone's going to hit on you at some point. So I think, like, that's the best way to, if you're looking for that, but you really don't want to do the work, but you like being social, that can be a way to kind of look for that.
And
Um,
you said that he wanted it to fall more in his lap. Did he have certain situations where it did just fall in his lap?
Literal.
yes.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was playing. I started actually after we had our open relationship. I started playing roller derby, and the roller derby community is very sex positive, very queer positive,
Oh,
and
Good no.
then
yeah.
understandably, several of my teammates ended up like having sex with my husband. So, and it was kind of funny because I didn't really care about that, unless it was somebody who could potentially create gossip, or somebody who might be like
Mhm.
drama-y in the roller derby league. Otherwise, I didn't really care too much. But he didn't want me to hook up with any of his friends, just because I think the culture amongst his friends was so different and so limited,
Yeah.
in thinking about like that as a possibility. It was harder for his friends to understand, I think, than a lot of mine.
Uh-huh.
How do these orgasms work when you have a group? Like, if somebody like gets off before you, is it a race to the finish line? Are you like, I want to have the most? Like, how does it?
Or when you hear somebody else, then you're like,
Oh,
whoa,
it's like
me
domino
too.
domino effect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some social facilitation happening there. You know, for me, I take SSRIs for my anxiety, and so having orgasms is really difficult for me, and I
Okay.
often never do, which
Okay.
is fine with me. Like I've learned to cope with that. It does suck a lot, but I think that's also part of why I valued the open relationship so much, because at least the novelty was stimulating.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
it was exciting for me to have sex and have relationships with new guys. You know, so I think I was seeking pleasure in all kinds of ways, in part because it was difficult for me to come.
Is
Whereas, you know, my husband never has any problem with it. So, you know, and I think he was always would try to kind of, I think he's a very polite Midwest boy. So he would like to try to wait for, everybody else to come, you know.
Wow. Thinking
But
about
you
football.
know, like it doesn't always work out that way. But yeah, find the polite boys for sure.
Do you also feel like part of that of you having a hard time coming, it's kind of exciting to have him give somebody else an orgasm? Like for you, it's almost exciting of like, yay, you get to finish somebody else.
You did good.
Yeah.
See?
I did get turned on by seeing him, especially like go down on women and give them oral sex. That was I remember like the first few times I saw it, I was like, weird, but that's hot. You know? Yeah, it was like, and I think in part because of the still taboo nature of it at that time, it was even more hot. The more people naked and having fun, like it's just the better. It's like chocolate, just keep
More,
bringing
more,
it
more.
on. You know, and for me, although I did enjoy that with him, I still preferred to like hang out with guys alone, away from him, and have my own relationship with him separately. Um,
Okay.
it just felt, I don't know. I mean, it was just something that we neither one of us was super into, but you know, we also wanted to experience other people. But
Okay.
Yeah, how did that transform going from swinger
Everybody get in
lifestyle?
here. That's an
Yeah.
improv.
I think literally after the first time we had that experience with the you know, the good looking swingers from out west, we really felt that we understood this and weren't going to be jealous about each other, and so we both kind of gave each other carte blanche to just do whatever. You know, and I think that that is a mistake. You know, again, we weren't very educated in it, but you know, and so we learned stuff about over time about like, you know, developing feelings for other people, and we had to navigate all of that.
Yeah.
But it was you know, it was always like something, because we were very close, we were very honest with each other, that we were always able to work through, and really be understanding about each other for our various preferences.
So you went on. You began to go on dates separately,
Yeah.
and does it ever become like, fuck? I wanted to watch the show on Netflix tonight, and you've got plans.
At least for me, I really tried to like have dates when like when my husband would have a hockey game.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you know, I would try, just in part too because he didn't do it as much as I did.
Yeah.
And so like to me, that I wanted to minimize that imbalance as much as possible.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but and over time I've kind of like come to like not care about that. And in a lot of open relationships, there's an imbalance. I would say in potentially most open relationships that are, you know, a monogamous couple that opens up their relationship, there's usually one person who's like more into it than another. Not always, of course, but that was, you know, our experience. And so you know, I've always was respectful of him as having um my heart, and you know, always having anything he wanted from me and making sure that he felt satisfied. That was more important to me than dating other guys.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure that was taken care of first, and then, you know, what I do on my own time is my own time. So,
So yeah, kind of like going for drinks out at the bar with your girlfriends, except
yeah.
they're sexual partner friends.
And for me, going out with guys was less socially anxiety producing. In part, I think I was always confident in my ability as a one-on-one flirter. Like that was one situation that I certainly got anxious about it, but I felt like I could handle it. And, the validation of feeling attractive was so important to me at that time. But yeah, I mean, it's, I'm good at, yeah, I'm a good flirt.
She's a pro.
I mean, I'm loving her, so you got me.
She's like, I'm not even flirting with you. That's how good I am. Well, I have to know about this cat couple. How was the sex? I mean, I know their personal things got a little out of control.
And did they ever ask for you to bring in your cat?
No, thank God. We are dog people, so that could have been really messy. Yeah, that's something I didn't want to picture, was 2 cats and 2 dogs with
in the room.
Yeah,
Watching.
so that would have been a whole other level of kink. But with the cats, they were like, that was just like their tool for like, I think I'm pretty sure they're not a couple anymore. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're not a couple anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the cats did not come into the sex life.
No. They were, and the couple themselves, like I liked the woman a lot more than the man. The man was attractive, but he was like just kind of a jackass. Like it was his wife, and she was going down on me, and he said, "Kelly likes tuna."
So the cats did. Cats.
Maybe they were just actually cats. I don't know. Did you just say that in the middle of an orgy? Like, that's kind of a weird thing. But
yeah, it's not necessarily a compliment, or it's like a weird, like,
yeah.
He's trying to be funny, I think, and now that we're talking about it, I think it's possible that they maybe were transfigured cats.
Oh, they were just cats in a human body. That makes a lot of sense.
And that's probably why we ended up breaking it off with them, because we're dog people. So
yeah, your dog's in a human suit. Listener, this is not true. These are all actual humans. We're pretty certain of this. We cannot confirm, but it seems
deny.
Not a bestiality podcast yet.
So when you get into new relationships, do you end up bringing things back to the original source? Like, do you like try things out with a new partner, and then you're like, dude, this guy does a cat o' nine tails on me, and I like it?
Yeah, I think that through dating other guys, I learned more about my submissive preferences.
Okay.
Like I would try to date other guys who were more submissive in bed, and we'd be like, I'd be like, you get on top, and he'd be like, no, you get on top, and like it just was like something. We're both wanting the same thing, and neither of us wants to, be the one kind of in charge. And and I call myself like I'm very vanilla submissive. I'm not. I don't do a lot of like, serious fetish stuff with it, slave role play, things like that. But I just prefer guys to be in charge. So I think I learned that by dating other guys, because I hadn't slept with that many guys. I think before I got married, Dave was the 6th guy I slept with when we got married. And then after we got married, I think I slept with like 40 or 50 other guys. So
wow.
Most of my sexual experience has come after.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre, but that's just, how I evolved. I felt like I had more dramatic breakups after I was married than before, for sure. So late bloomer.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just said I'm a late bloomer, I guess.
How much do you guys help each other out on your other relationships? Like, are you going to come to your husband with maybe a fight or something you had with another partner and be like, hey, this happened, what do I do? Kind of like you would with a best friend.
Yeah, I think we both have relied on that a little bit. Like it's I would say it definitely comes up. Like if there's a problem in another relationship, we always kind of let each other know what's going on in the other situation, even if we're not like giving a lot of detail. Like sometimes we like hearing detail, and I feel like the times that we usually share sexual detail is when we're like laughing at it. Like if something funny has happened or something awkward has happened. Like for example, I like to date younger men typically. And I grew up with arthritis, so I've had arthritis my whole life. So sometimes I'd be dating these younger guys, and like I'd be trying to have sex with them, and my knees would be popping all over the place. And they're like, what the fuck is that? So we'd share kind of funny experiences like that, just because I think for us that was what it was about the new experiences, having relationships with people that we otherwise wouldn't have, and just you know getting to be intimate with cool people.
And you mentioned learning about your bisexuality. Do you date women now, or are you still like going for the dudes?
I haven't dated women in a long time. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
But I typically just don't feel as confident flirting with women. They intimidate me more, probably because I'm mostly straight. But I I've certainly been attracted to a lot of women. Like one time I hooked up with the brother of a girl on my roller derby team, and then a year or two later I hooked up with her.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was kind of cool. They were both really hot uh, immigrants from Israeli, beautiful, just wonderful humans.
Nice.
And that was really fun. They were both very sexy. Uh, but I think I think I learned about what my attractions to women were too. Like when I first started out thinking about women that I would be interested in sleeping with, I went very much from the male gaze, because that's what we learned growing up.
Yeah.
Like pretty lipstick, blonde, very feminine women. And then as I grew older, I realized that I was attracted to women that, were more, and for lack of a better word, androgynous.
Yeah.
And that I was interested also in people who were not necessarily cisgender too.
Okay.
So I don't tend to feel as confident in those, just because I'm well versed in the dudes. I haven't had as much experience with other folks, so I think I'm always shy to seek that out, because I don't know if I'm I don't know,
Doing it right.
like it's a total stereotype, but men have always felt easier for me to handle socially.
I mean, I think like anything, you're just better at certain things, and that's okay.
Yeah. And more comfortable too.
Yeah,
Like you said. Yeah.
And it might change.
yeah, I could totally see that too. Yeah, it's I don't know how you guys find people in LA, but I find I haven't really wanted to like go on apps. I think I just sort of I
It's
like meeting
intimidating.
people IRL. I used to use apps all the time to meet guys. But I think just because I'm not doing that, I'm not going out as much in LA. I haven't met guys.
Someone was just talking about like the app experience, and like, oh, I don't like being on the app because I don't like meeting people that are on the app. Like they want to be full in the world because they're like, I don't like this because you're on the app too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there's still some folks who feel like it's forced. But
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. I met, like, there's a guy that I'm several of the guys that I've dated, I'm really good friends with still, that I met on OkCupid back in the day. And we had, a brief thing, and then we've been friends like ever since. So I've definitely met a few great people on apps, and I've met a lot of not great people on apps. So
Yeah.
I had a friend who said it's like you just have to think of dating on apps in bulk. Like it's a numbers game. Like you just have to keep doing it until you find a fit. So
Yeah.
Do you put it out there when you're meeting people in person and on the apps where you're like, I am married, straight up. You are a side piece. I don't know.
Or do you hide it?
it's a hard thing to figure out when to tell people you're in an open relationship, because if you're starting to flirt, it can be awkward to just, sort of at that point where you're like not even sure if you're flirting yet. It's like at what point say, by the way, I'm married. I always wear a wedding ring, so I'm never like hiding it.
Yeah.
I have learned that the time to tell him is not immediately after he comes. But
you live and learn.
Unless you want to make a comedy. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's the responsibility of anybody to just be open about who you are and where you're at, because there are still a lot of people who they don't feel comfortable sleeping with somebody who's in a partnership with somebody else. And it's not fair to be deceptive about that. So I always try to figure out a way to work it in when I feel like they're sold and this isn't going to deter them anymore. And it really varies. Like, I mean, some of the people I meet know that I'm married. They know that they've met my husband even sometimes. Um, but if not, then it's my responsibility to figure out a good time to bring it up, so that they're not going into it. And when we first started doing it, a lot of guys were like, "Is your husband going to beat me up?" Because it just was so
Yeah.
uncommon. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, he doesn't care about you.
All right, Melanie, we do have a caller for you. And now we'll get Margot on.
No.
Hey, Margot, it's Greenberry
And Kirsten.
with Adult Buddy Finders. And our guest today is Melanie Laforce, who is in an open marriage.
Oh, good. That's very helpful.
So I know that you have that information, and we're super excited that you're calling. So Margot, feel free to fire away. What do you got for Melanie?
I have a married friend who's a male friend, and he kind of told me about his open marriage, and I'm like not sure if he mentioned it to kind of be like, oh, maybe you can get in the mix, or like I don't know how to like the right way to
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely wants to fuck you. And I don't know the level of closeness of your friendship, but I would say if you're not usually confiding in each other these really intimate things, then, and if he's approaching it to you like, hey, I just want to leave this information here versus like this, I want to talk to you and have a real conversation about this from the philosophical standpoint and share with you as my friend what's going on. If he's just sort of like leaving that information there, then I feel like that's a hint just in case you ever want to take advantage of it.
And so how would I go about kind of being like I got the message and
Message received, and I want in
And
that.
I want to fuck too.
Yeah, I mean, I think now that he's opened the door, it's a lot easier, because you can ask in a very casual way. Like I when I'm flirting, I tend to just try to match the energy, and when it escalates, I escalate, and then take it one little step further. So you could be like, tell me how your open relationship works. Like, what kinds of women are you interested in, or however you want that sort of. It's like, well, maybe she's into it, just something that leads him down that way without necessarily. I mean, I think it's always great if you feel comfortable with it to just be fully forthright and just say, so tell me more about this, and, I might potentially be interested. But if you, don't fully feel the confidence to do that yet, you can sort of just throw additional hints, and then he'll throw another hint, and then you guys can finally meet at the point where you're both like comfortable admitting that you're on the same page. Uh, I feel like just with any kind of flirting, especially because he's sort of let you know that it's out there, that he is a person that can be hit on, or be dating other women or other people, then, I think it's very easy for you to move forward with it.
Okay, yeah, I like that. The dropping hints, kind of like building a hint bridge, kind of like slowly.
Yes.
Yeah. Especially
a nice little unicorn sex bridge.
Yeah.
I love that too of finding out about their relationship more, because then you can go into it and knowing that it is either sex or it is also emotionally charged, or more of a
Yeah.
relationship, and what you're getting into, and if maybe he wants his significant other to be a part of it or not.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be. There are still like a lot of couples out there, people in relationships where things aren't balanced between the couple, and sometimes if this matters to you, like their partner might not fully be on board, but they're kind of pushing for it, or kind of exaggerating their situation, because I've experienced both of those. And so it is important, I think, to feel out any potential like relationship or sex partner, and really understand like what all they're involved in and what they're looking for. and I think that, as Kirsten brings up, that's a great way to do that.
That's a good question too, of how do you find out if their partner is on board and how on board they are?
Yeah.
Mm.
I personally have always like left it open to guys if they want to check with my husband, they can. No one has ever taken me up on it.
Do you just give him his phone number? You're like, by the way, here's his phone number, his email. This is
Oh,
where we live. You can
wow.
stop by,
I
say
think
hi.
that, exactly. Yeah, I think that when I offer it, they're like, okay, it must be legit.
Okay.
Because I don't experience it as much in later years, but when I was first in an open relationship, and to some extent still, I think that there is just some suspicion out there about what this really means, and a lot of people will say they're in an open relationship, but they're not at all. They're having an affair, and if you are uncomfortable with that situation, which you may or may not be, no judgment, then you can deal with it in a more valid way, and it's pretty easy once you start asking more probing questions about what does your wife do, or how does she do it, then they're struggling to answer those questions. You might want to dig a little deeper and make sure it's not a red flag.
Yeah, that's a good little lookout.
So does that help, Margot? Have you ever done anything like this before?
I've not in this way. It was
Okay.
only I slept with one person who was in an open marriage, but it was like a friend of a friend, and I knew that it was that was like their thing.
Okay.
It was kind of like, yeah, so it was like already like, it was more so like, oh, he, like my friend was like, oh yeah, he thinks you're really cute, so it was kind of like set up for me. Already.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh wait, Margot? That was us. No, I'm just kidding.
I believed it. I bought that. That's good, Melanie.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
I
Melanie.
was gonna say, on a final note, I think it can be really great to date people in open relationships who are at a mature level with it, because I think if you can handle the situation, it's just a really nice, easy way to have a fulfilling relationship. It's a lot less work sometimes too. So I think that I personally feel like I've met a lot of great people through my dating experiences after I was married, and hope that at least some of them have felt the same way.
And like you mentioned earlier, it sounds like a great way too to kind of figure out more of what you want and what makes you happy, and
Definitely.
yeah, take that to the other relationships you have, whether they're different ones moving forward or the marriage that you're in right now.
Yeah, for sure. So it's just learning. It's an education. Just think of it as an
Yeah.
education.
Yeah, the school of sex. We are in it every day.
Yeah.
Growth mindset. Anything is possible.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling, Margot.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Melanie, for answering the question.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah. And if you just go out there and you lay it out and you're like, let's do it. Or if you maybe there's some more layers to it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I will I'll keep everyone posted.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, you might have started a new happy open marriage love affair.
Yeah.
Let's hope so.
I have a question about your orgasms. So you mentioned not orgasming easily. Have you found like specific partners that help to that, or do you typically just enjoy sex without an orgasm and that's just the way you have sex?
It can be both. I've sort of grown to accept that I probably won't, and that helps me to be in that place, and often makes me more relaxed too, to just like not feel like I need to come.
Okay.
Because I still love sex, I still like enjoy all of it, and it's still very
Right.
pleasurable for me, and the connection with someone, heightens that. But like, and I would say, like, just as an aside too, it can be hard too for some partners, as you may have experienced, when somebody has a hard time orgasming, they might feel guilty, they might feel stressed about it.
It comes up a lot in our
Yeah.
in our talks, just in general. Like, how do you feel? Like, how do you feel if somebody's very honest with you that they're not having an orgasm? And just, I think the reality, you know, with women, especially with porn culture, that it's like women are like, oh my God, I'm coming and it's juicy and it's all the time and I'm
it's
always
within 2 minutes.
Yeah, as soon as your wiener's near. And the reality is, like, sometimes you are having a great time, like you're still having fun, but you're not not everyone gets to orgasm easily.
Yeah.
And it's great to talk to people that don't orgasm easily.
Do you
And I think in open relationships too, like for me at least, there's certainly an anxiety component to it. And so like if you're having all of these new relationships, sometimes it can be hard. It's exciting in a different way because they're new relationships. But typically it's the guys who have not really cared but have been willing to try whatever I suggest, or women, you know, to try whatever I suggest that will get me to let my guard down and give me more pleasure. Because it's definitely, you know, it's, you know, I'm a pleaser. That's why I like being a submissive too. I want to please. I want somebody. It makes me feel really sexy and aroused to have somebody else feeling sexy about me. So, you know, I think that just whenever I can be honest about it and talk about it, and they're like, okay, cool, you know, whatever. Um, then it's not a big thing because usually there's a point where it comes up either before the sex or after the sex. You know, somebody will ask me like, "Have you come yet?" And it's like, okay, no, but I probably won't want to. But just keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. Or not that I won't want to. I probably won't. But just keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. And you know, there's a lot of guys who have seen that at this point in their life, and they're like, cool. And but I think there's still some people out there who feel like, oh shit, I'm fucking this up. And so, and I think it's easier to get that place when to get to the place where I can let my guard down with it's when it's somebody I know a little bit better, and then I'm more likely to have you know, pleasure or an orgasm.
I have a final question. Final thought. If you're looking to get into an open marriage or you're looking to participate in an open marriage, where can you find it?
I feel like if you're on the outside trying to get into an open, like, you know, be a partner with somebody who's in an open marriage, that's harder to find unless they're on apps and talking about it.
Do you know some apps?
I have heard there's actually I heard about it on your podcast. I think it was Lauren Michaels who talked about Field.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have not used that personally, but I have heard about it from other people, and it seems, you know, just any app that's allowed. Like I love the honesty of the culture now. Like it's changed so much in the last like 10 or 15 years, and just that level of transparency is, you know, much more accepted, if not expected. There's also one called Pure that I've played with a little bit, but I haven't really met anybody from it. And it's again the same kind of idea where you're just like saying exactly what you want. And I think with that one you only have like it's a window of time that your request is up or whatever. So it's a lot of it's geared I think a little bit more towards the fetish community, but can also be certainly a way to meet people. I think apps are probably the easiest way to meet somebody in a polyamorous relationship. Otherwise, just like go to bars and talk to people with wedding rings. And usually, I think if people in an open relationship and that you know that they're married or in a strong partnership, they're probably going to be the ones who drop the hints because they won't expect you to assume that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think if you are hoping to open up your relationship, um, I think that you know, if you're in couples therapy at all, that would be a really great place to broach it with a third party. I think if you don't feel comfortable broaching it with your partner, you should look at why and think about what norms exist in your relationship that your partner might be resistant to it. And based on those, your partner's feelings about things, like how do you think you should bring it up? Sometimes it might be just I know a lot of couples where one partner's brought it up very philosophically, like, what do you think about ethical non-monogamy? And I think that's a great starting point, and just to kind of go from there. And you know, it's hard. I know that I've known a lot of couples who want to be in one partner wants to be in an open relationship and the other one doesn't, and so then you have to decide, like, you know, what do I value more to me? What's more important to me? Is it this person and maintaining this relationship, or is this not meeting my needs? And so, you know, for me, I always felt like if Dave ever wanted me to be monogamous again, I would. Like
Yeah.
he's too important to me. But you know, he's never wanted to make a request like that. So
Yeah.
Well, Melanie, that's super helpful. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of information that we have now that we didn't have before.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
yeah, great. I'm happy to share my experience anytime. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
so much. It was great to be with you and meet you.
Likewise. Thank you everyone so much for joining us today and hearing all about the openness of the relationships that you can do.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Melanie, thank you for being on the show. Everybody, Melanie, you can find her doing comedy. She's an excellent writer. So check out our show notes because we'll have links to how you can find her online and where to find her books and gosh, what's happening with her pilot that might be getting picked up. Who knows? You gotta follow her to see where she's at next. But thank you again, Melanie. Thanks for being our guest.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And for all of the listeners, if you are open, wink, wink, to share this podcast, I think that it would be a great thing to do. There's so many great sex positive tips, and I'm going to binge listen to it after this session.